What's up, everybody? This is Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HAWGsports.com. Well, it's limbo week. It's taking forever for Arkansas to get to game week. We've got, 9 days left until Arkansas takes on the Western Carolina Catamounts in Little Rock. And so we're kind of rehashing a lot of stuff. I mean, there's some new stuff here and there, but we're rehashing a lot. We're going to jump on with Danny West today, talk a little recruiting, and we're going to take your questions as well. All that and more on today's episode of HawgSports Live. Before we get started, I want to remind you there's plenty of ways to watch and listen. You can always tune in on Facebook Live. Be one of 90,000 Razorback fans to follow the page if you haven't done so already. Also available on YouTube. Subscribe to those channels. Hit the notifications bell on YouTube so you're alerted anytime we upload new videos. Most of the people who watch our videos aren't even subscribed to the YouTube channel. So throw us a thumbs up or a like. Both of those platforms, go ahead and throw us a thumbs up here. If you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube, throw us a thumbs up or a like or whatever they call it. And share the content with other people if you think they might like it. As I always say, your pappy doesn't have internet. He doesn't know about it. Give him your phone, let him watch the show. He's a big Razorback fan. He wants to see it. All right, also available on Apple Podcasts. If you haven't thrown us a 5-star review, we're getting close to 1,000 reviews now, so would love to have that from you if you could take a moment and throw us that 5-star review. Also available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, anywhere else you can think of to find your favorite podcast. We are there at Hog Sports. So, Limbo Week. Limbo Week is... let me get rid of this. Y'all want to watch some highlights real quick? Put up about 3 minutes of highlights from yesterday's practice. It was inside the Walker Pavilion. Still not air conditioned. This was supposed to be AC'd August 5th, and they're still having issues with it. So, I know the other day they kept all the doors closed. It was over 100 degrees the other day. They kept all the doors closed, had the fans running. It was actually pretty cool in there, but obviously not as cool as it would be if they had the AC working. And, man, they need it this week. So maybe it'll be ready today. I don't know. But it's been around 100 degrees every day, so certainly need that. The AC, from what I'm told, it'll get it to about 78 degrees. So not ultra cool or anything, but certainly a lot cooler than it's been outside. So that, things have changed over the years. It's now more about keeping these guys fresh and healthy. This isn't a week where you want to just wear them out completely, put them out in 100-degree temperatures. It's when you want to get their legs back, So today at practice, they got practice around 4:30 today. They should break off into a scout team today. If they don't do it today, then definitely tomorrow. But I'm pretty sure they're going to do that today. So you're going to see a lot of players working scout team. It's not so much working on yourselves, getting yourself better, obviously for the current players. But the focus shifts to preparing for Western Carolina, preparing for a game week. This is kind of a rehearsal week. I've heard a lot of people say, why do you want to waste a lot of time on Western Carolina? Why not try to get some extra work in on LSU or something like that? Well, first of all, you don't want to get caught. You don't want this is week 1 here. You want to set the standard this week. And also with today being Wednesday, it should be like a Monday practice. Okay? Thursday, Tuesday practice, Friday, Wednesday practice. You get the idea. Those are the 3, kind of grind days of practice. And so they'll be able to do a rehearsal of sorts for these first 3 days of next week. And then when they jump in on Monday with a Monday practice, Tuesday, Wednesday practice, that format, they'll have already done it. Now, I would expect them to hold a mock game on Saturday also, not a scrimmage, but just kind of going over every situation, practicing running through the A. What happens if this situation happens, going over different scenarios on special teams, all those kinds of rehearsal weeks. So maybe rehearsal week is a better term for it than limbo week. I always just kind of call it limbo week because, man, it just seems to drag on forever. It almost feels like it's going backwards. We need a game. We've covered every single thing that's possible about this team, every position group. We've probably written 2 articles just in fall camp. I mean, today's day 19, or I guess they completed 19 days. Is it day 20? I think it's day 19 yesterday, so they would have gone through 16 practices in 19 days so far. It's kind of flown by, to be honest. I mean, I always say it drags on forever, but it's flown on a little bit. So not too bad. Not too bad overall. I mean, it's better when you feel like they got a good team, and I feel like they've got a good team. I was actually hitting some people up, who I thought may be looking at multiple teams and stuff, national writers and stuff. And people are kind of jumping into that, but I just wanted to get a feel like, how does everybody feel about, all the teams that they see? What I would love to do sometime, I don't even know if this is feasible, but like to watch Arkansas through several practices, then go watch somebody else and just see how the team looks. Because as I've said before, you take this team and you throw them back to 4 years ago and let them play, Arkansas' schedule. There's a lot of teams out there that wouldn't like the results. It's just they're different rosters now. They're different rosters than they were just even 4 years ago. Unless you're LSU from 2019 or Georgia or Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma, some of those schools, Alabama, that already have depth that they just build up naturally through the program because they're one of the elites, then they're probably, competing and stuff like that. But, I think most teams out there across the country, you take this Arkansas team and put them 4 years ago, those programs aren't going to like the results. Now, what's different is this year, as I've said before, we're in repeat mode, so I'm repeating myself on some things. Teams are just built differently. Everybody else is able to go into the transfer portal and bring out quality players. Did they assemble the defensive line that Arkansas has? I think it's a team strength. I think linebackers should be pretty good. It's hard to replace a Drew Sanders bumper pool, but I feel like they've got good numbers there at linebacker. I feel like they should be able to, it's not going to be those weeks where, Grant Morgan's out there playing with the bionic elbow thing and, bumper pool can barely walk and, Hayden Henry shoulders are killing him. I feel like they should be able to rotate a little bit more freely there. Now, you've got some guys here and there that are banged up and injured, some guys on the sideline, but they should. I don't think that there's anything long-term that's going on right now. Maybe there might be a guy here and there, but as far as like starters, I don't think that they're going to have anybody that's going to miss. I could see them maybe holding a guy out here or there for Western Carolina, but I don't think there's anything that's long-term. So overall, came out of the last scrimmage pretty healthy. I like the looks of the team. I mean, I talked to other people. I was like, you feeling this way about this team like I am? And, when I say that, there's people that are like, oh, buy into the hype. And I'm talking like 8 wins. It's hard for me to say this team could be a 10-win team. Because not that I don't think that they could do it. It's just that, like, I look at them and I say, they should be at least an average SEC team, but need some bounces probably to get to 10 wins. And I think most teams do at, an elite level, like, Alabama, like you would predict Alabama to win 10 games. Now, can they get to 12? Well, if they get some bounces here and there. Everybody needs it, even Alabama. For Arkansas, I think maybe the number is 8. Can they get to 10? They get some bounces. They get some luck. And what is luck? Luck is injuries. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity, as the quote goes. But, luck is injuries. It's, safety is probably, to me, the position where I'd say they can't afford to really have a lot of injuries. They need to stay healthy there. But safety is also the position that is most likely to be hit with a targeting penalty. You lose a guy. And then it's like not just like how good is your second team, it's how good is your third team. Because your third team guy is now your second team guy. And your second team guys are going to play. They got to come in for relief some. You don't want to ideally play your entire secondary every snap. You want to play them, 80% of the snaps, 70% for linebackers, 60% for defensive line. That's kind of how I've always looked at the formula, how you want to rotate things around. So, that could, I'll tell you what would help them a lot if Jaden Johnson was coming off, play like we thought he was going to be coming off his freshman year and not his sophomore year. If Malik Chavis plays like a guy who can out-jump and outrun everybody on the team. People don't know this, but Malik Chavis is like 22.35, something like that, speed. I mean, he's faster than everybody on the team, and he can jump higher. I saw him jump yesterday, high-pointed ball, and I kind of caught it like the side of my eye, and I was like, whoa. But he's got a 40-inch vertical, and he can outrun everybody on the team. He needs to be able to take the driving range to the course. Take the driving range to the course for Malik Chavis. Can he do that? If he can do that, if Jaden Johnson can step up, and Jaden's been running with the ones the last couple of practices over Hudson Clark. He intercepted KJ Jefferson yesterday. in fastball, which is 11 on 11. Now, and they were in full pads. Now, it may have been kind of a busted play, but he intercepted him. If those two guys can step up and get some support for Al Walcott and Hudson Clark, and challenge Hudson also, then you feel a little bit better about the safety spot. But based on what we saw last year, Chavis has been inconsistent. He's been, kind of prone to injury. And Jaden Johnson just did not play very well last year. For whatever reason, attitude, who knows, just did not play very well. So, I'll be honest, I thought after, Missouri or Kansas, I thought it was just a matter of time before Jaden Johnson hit the portal. We had a story ready to go. That's me being perfectly honest. He's looked better. He's looked better in camp. So maybe whatever happened has gotten fixed with him. Because after freshman year, I remember talking like, man, Pooh Paul, Jaden Johnson, Cam Ball, those are the three guys they got out of Georgia. Remember how they all contributed as freshmen? I was like, man, go get some more Georgia guys. And Paul and Ball both progressed, but I felt like Jaden took a step back. So, man, if those two guys could really step up for him, that would be big for him. Considering I think that safety's probably thinnest spot. Sam Pittman said yesterday at the Little Rock Touchdown Club that they're a little thinner on the offensive line, but he feels like they've got 8 guys that can, and I don't know if he misspoke or something, they can win the SEC with. That's what he said. This coaching staff, there's no doubt about it, this coaching staff feels good about the team. They feel like they got a really good squad. Now, it's going to come down to management, coaching. So many times last year, we can talk all we want about losing 4 games by 9 total points. It's interesting to hear people say, well, they sucked last year. Well, they didn't suck. They just weren't a real good team. But they also lost 4 games by 9 points. Why did they do that? Sometimes not just letting Cam Little kick it. There's so many times that I said last year and the year before, I feel like I've been saying this more and more as everybody dives into analytics. The analytics say do this and that. I don't know that analytics totally account for momentum swings that can happen when you get down into opponent's red zone. You decide to go for it for 4th and 1, you come away with no points. And that happened to Arkansas too much last year. So sometimes just let Cam Little kick it, take your 3 points. Sometimes if you let Cam Little kick it last year, all those games you lost by 2 and 3 points, maybe they come out a little bit differently. Obviously not Texas A&M because that went off the top of the upright. But, again, that goes back to a goal line issue. That was kind of a different goal line issue where, KJ just made a mistake, just didn't make a good decision trying to dive from 12 feet out like Superman. And, KJ does some things to where you're like, okay, that's why he thought he could do that. Breaking tackles and stuff like that. I lift weights. It's not surprising that KJ thinks that he can jump from 12 feet out and dive into the end zone against Texas A&M. But those are the things that cost Arkansas games last year. I think that there was a vein of internal problems with certain players, and a lot of those guys aren't here. In fact, I would say all of those guys aren't here. Now, not everybody who left was a problem. That's not what I mean. But the guys who were a problem last year, they're not with this team right now. And I think there was a problem. And I think that there was, maybe some issues, not just with players also. And I think that they have definitely corrected that. I know they've corrected it on defense. I don't know how big an issue it was on offense, but I know on defense there were some issues with them. And it showed up. You're dead last. Pittman had a great quote talking about bringing in Marcus Woodson and, having to go in and get some more money to bring him in. I think he's pulling in $700,000 a year. But he said, last year, I think they finished 4th nationally, but he said 7th. Last year, Florida State finished 4th nationally, or finished 4th in the country in pass defense. And he said, we finished in the country. He would say they finished 131, but he's like, we finished in the country. That was a funny quote by Sam Pittman, but can't happen this year. So maybe they learned some stuff from how they handled things last year. Pittman says he wants to go for it more, obviously, in certain and 4th down situations. But I would just say when you're in scoring territory and just kick the field goal. I'm maybe against coaches and this new wave of analytics and stuff like that, but there are just so many times where I've watched teams drive the length of the field. I remember Ole Miss a couple years ago driving the length of the field against Alabama, great drive, and then they decide to go for it, in low red zone, and they don't get it, and they come away with nothing, and the whole game turns around because of that. I agree there's some analytic stuff you got to pay attention to, but 6 Razorbacks earned preseason coaches All-SEC honors. That's a lot. Raheem Sanders, Dwight McGlothern, first team All-SEC. KJ Jefferson, Brady Latham, Bo Limmer, second team All-SEC. And then Cam Little placed on the third team. Just one defensive guy in McGlothern. One special teams guy in Cam Little. This dude called in or gave live fan feedback when I was on Drive Time yesterday and was like, all you media boys saying Cam Little's good from 60 yards out, LOL. I was just like, well, we didn't say that. That's what Sam Pittman said. Get your facts straight. A lot of people talking noise. Arkansas fans talking trash about themselves. I get it. I mean, you've been hurt before. That's why I'm cautious about it. People will come back next year and said, you said, this team was going to be great. I think they could be. I'll own up to some stuff. I mean, like, if you want to come back next year and say that's what you said last year and, they tank, I'll own up to it because I think they got a good team. Now, again, be clear, this team should win 8 games. Okay? They should win 8. They should go 4-4 and win 8. And a lot of people talk about, is this the year they can beat LSU in Baton Rouge? Is this the year that they go to Tuscaloosa and finally beat Alabama after 16 tries? I don't know if it's that team or not. That's a tall order. But what we should also be talking about right now, what if they don't show up for a game? Because that cuts both ways. There's 133 teams this year in Division I. Arkansas is playing one that's not, I guess, in Western Carolina. But all these teams are going through fall camp. A lot of them have, FIU, Kent State, Western Carolina. They've got Arkansas circled. BYU, they've got Arkansas circled. This is an opportunity to make a name for themselves, all the work that they've put in. They're not coming to play Arkansas to lose. They're coming up to shock the world. And last year, Arkansas lost to Liberty just because they didn't have KJ Jefferson. That was the reason. Now, they're in a lot better shape at quarterback, but they lost to Liberty. Had they lost to Missouri State, which could have happened, it's the fourth quarter, like 9 minutes left, and Missouri State's beating Arkansas right before that punt return by Bryce Stevens. That would have been the worst loss in Arkansas program history. And there's a lot of examples that we can point to over the years. Obviously, the Citadel probably goes up there because they were a division lower than Arkansas. But, Louisiana Monroe, Toledo, Colorado State, who else? Liberty, obviously, San Jose State. I mean, there's a lot of examples out there to point to, but you can't just sleepwalk through games. But while we're talking about can Arkansas jump up and get somebody that nobody's thinking they can get, what about somebody else doing that to Arkansas? Do they win when they're not supposed to win, and do they lose when they're not supposed to win? To me, if they lose when they're not supposed to lose, that's how they get below 8 wins next year. Reese's Senior Bowl watch list: Andrew Armstrong, Hudson Clark, Takias Crawford, Eric Gregory, Trajan Jeffcoat, KJ Jefferson, Lorando Snacks Johnson, Brady Latham, Bo Limmer, Dwight McGlothern, John Morgan. John Morgan, we talked to him yesterday, good guy, very personable. Had a good talk with Jaheim Singletary, John Morgan, Patrick Kudish yesterday. First time we've talked to any of those guys. We didn't ever talk to John Morgan in the spring. John Morgan wants to be in the media. Isaac Teslaw, and Alfahim Walcott. We can call him Al Walcott. His mom wants us to call him Alfahim by the full name. A-L-F-A-H-A. Let me start over. A-L-F-A-H-I-Y-M. I mean, I don't know if it's a family name or if it means something or something like that, but Mom, if you wanted us to call him by his full name, don't make it so difficult on us. It's a tough one. So last I've seen, Arkansas is 6.5. I love them. I love the over. The Bet Saracen app has them at 6.5. You can also bet 7.5 for a chance to win more money. Arkansas is a 34.5-point favorite over Western Carolina. That's 5 touchdowns on the Bet Saracen app. Can Arkansas beat those guys by 5 touchdowns? That's a lot of touchdowns. There's a lot of things that have to go right. You'd like to think that they'd come out and wallop them, come out in the third quarter with the starters. Kind of ideally you put a bunch of points on them and then you reset at halftime, say, hey, this is how we're going to prepare to come out at halftime. You're going to bring your starters out, you're going to prepare them at halftime, and you're going to let them run a couple of series and hope you score a couple of touchdowns, and then hopefully from there it's the Jacoby Criswell show and the backups. That's what you would hope out of that game. So if that happens, do you give up a trash touchdown here and there, something like that? 34.5 points is not a bad betting line for that game, in my opinion. Another game that I like coming up on Thursday is Vanderbilt, I believe, is 17.5-point favorites over Hawaii, a team they beat like 63-10 in Honolulu last year. That's a week 0 game. Some people hate that term, but I don't know what you call the week. I don't think you call it week 1 if it's not week 1 for everybody, in my opinion. So week 0, limbo week, that's my own term. I got to get to Danny. I told him I'd get to him pretty quick. But anyway, should jump into Western Carolina prep here today, I would expect, as a rehearsal kind of situation. Anything else I wanted to cover? Not a lot of freshmen expected to play, I wouldn't think. You could see some guys on special thing. I think you'll see, like Brad Spence, some of those linebackers, Dylan Haas at safety. You could see those guys contributing on special teams. But I think you see, as far as like major impact guys, Luke Haas, Jalen Braxton. I'm not sure that I would say, at least right now, things can change throughout the season. You have injuries and stuff like that, which you're going to have. I could see maybe somebody else stepping up, maybe an Ian Gerard. But Luke Haas, Jalen Braxton. Luke has potential to start. Jalen Braxton definitely in the 2 deep. I think the offensive line is going to be better than they were last year. I don't know how much better, but I think they will be better. I just think the ceiling is higher for these guys. You got Latham and Limmer back, but the ceiling I feel like for Patrick Kudus and, Josh Braun, Devon Manuel, of course, I think maybe a little bit higher. I spoke about secondary depth a little bit, spoke about linebackers a little bit, showing up every weekend. Don't forget about the times you didn't show up and what happened. Be mindful. All right, let's get to Danny. We'll talk about Wyatt Simmons a little bit. Nice commitment out of Searcy. Harding Academy. Where are you at, Danny? There you go. All right, for those of you who don't follow Danny, we hadn't talked to him in just a little bit. I mean, August is not the same month for recruiting that it used to be. So kind of give Danny some time to gather himself, get things. I mean, you got to have some rest sometime, and in recruiting it just never happens. So August is like the month for him. So we just kind of left Danny alone. Danny, how you doing, man? Danny.
Trey, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. How you doing, brother?
Doing great, man. What's going on?
Oh, not much. I mean, I was just kind of telling everybody how recruiting never stops, but if it does stop a little bit, August has kind of been the month, so we just kind of left you alone a little bit, hadn't had you on the show. I know you've had a lot going on with life and all that kind of stuff, but there was a commitment in this month. Wyatt Simmons jumped on board. Just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that and anything else going on in recruiting.
Yeah, well, with Wyatt, I felt like it was a really important pickup for a lot of reasons. We all know the story by now, how he, just seemingly came out of nowhere as a recruit this past spring. He put out that junior film, and I think back on it now, I remember he announced an offer from SMU. I want to say it was first, and you're kind of like, oh, good for him. Another in-state guy getting offers, that's good. And then I think it was 2 hours later, it's Auburn. Then the next day, Oklahoma, Florida State. And, man, it got away from me. I was trying to catch up with the kid and get an interview, it just seemed like a lot was happening in a very short amount of time, and Arkansas hadn't offered yet. So, of course, they did, and eventually I think he took 3 official visits in June, Clemson and Auburn to start off, and then Arkansas got him on campus later in the month. And ever since that visit, man, it felt like Arkansas was in a really, really good spot. Matter of fact, I want to say it was 3 weeks ago, Trey, I was on your show here, and we had been talking about Wyatt. And as soon as I hung up with you, somebody let me know very quickly things are looking really, really good for Arkansas. So over the last few weeks, it sounded promising, and kind of felt like he was one that would get it done before the season started. And sure enough, that's what happened. So they needed him. You know, you think about some of the misses at linebacker. I give them a lot of credit for being in those battles. Some of those are really tough to be in, but you know, they came up short on a few guys, and you start to wonder how that linebacker class is going to shake out with Brian Huff leaving the state. And lo and behold, they were able to get Justin Logan to get on campus, commit on the spot, and now you've got Wyatt Simmons staying at home. So, hey, I think you'll take that if you're an Arkansas fan. That's a pretty good duo there.
Yeah. Danny, I don't know if we really talked about Justin Logan. He committed back on August 2nd. I don't think we've had you on the show since then. For those of you who aren't familiar with Justin, he's from Marietta, Georgia, a place that produces a lot of Division I talent, Kell High School, number 448 overall prospect in the country. He is a shade under 4-star status, so, you know, pretty nice pickup for Arkansas also. So a couple of good-looking linebackers.
Yeah, and you know, on Justin, man, I thought it was, I think it's impressive. You know, this is a guy that took so many visits as a recruit over the last, 2 years. Visited a lot of schools, had offers from a lot of those schools, made multiple trips to see a few of them, and he gets to Arkansas and commits on the spot. Ain't that a compliment to your program, when you think about it like that? That's not easy, especially in the middle of July, first time seeing it. It's a one-day event, and they wrapped it up. So, just kind of the game within the game, I was really impressed by how they did that. But, you watch the film, 6'3", 210. I think he told me the other day he's 215 now, so moving on up there. But he's a guy that I think when you see him this time next year, Trey, when you're out there every day at practice, he's probably going to be 230, no problem. He's going to put that on really, really quickly, I'd say. The frame is there, and, another high-quality kid off the field, both of those kids, for as little as I know about Wyatt, because he is such a quiet kid, didn't take time for a whole lot of interviews, which is fine. Everything I've heard about him and Justin both off the field, they're just incredible. They are what, kind of what you read about and hear about. So that's always good, to hear too.
Wyatt's a 3-star, 87 overall. He's a 4-star talent. It's just that he hasn't been evaluated in person. It may take all the way up to all-star games and such for him to get bumped up to 4-star. Like, they go through a week of practice and all that stuff, and we have guys on hand for that. But it may be one of those deals where he's a 3-star and then suddenly he's a 4-star, because I think he has that talent, don't you, Danny?
I do. I think both of the linebackers, and if there's one more I could throw in there as part of this class, committed class, Jaden Ball. I keep talking about him, but you know how I feel about him, Trey. Man, I hope they give him another look, because, man, if that ain't a 4-star, so he's up there for me too as a guy who could potentially move up.
Arkansas currently ranked number 20 nationally in recruiting. They have 18 commits. Sam Pittman has indicated he wants to get to about 25. I don't know if that's the number for this year. I still kind of think 20 recruits, 10 transfers is the formula for Arkansas, for a stable Arkansas program anyway, which last year I don't know if I would say they were stable. They needed a lot of change.
Dude, I'm going to agree with you on that. Just based on the last few years, the sample size we've got, I just think it makes more sense. Some of the guys at the back end, no disrespect to them, but from a ranking standpoint, there's been 3 to maybe even 5 guys in a class at times that as soon as you get them on campus, we all know it's going to be really, really tough for them to ever see the field, you know?
Yeah.
And you're not seeing that a lot in this year's class. They're not taking the 2-3 extra in-state kids just hoping and praying that it might work out, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man, I think you can get yourself in a bind like that if you take too many of them. And so I'm kind of happy to see them get away from that a little bit this year. And as an end result, you know, you're going to have a few extra spots. Why not save those and go get a more developed guy? You know, if you can't get equal to what you're seeing at Auburn right now, Alabama, Georgia, every year, if you can't get equal to that coming out of high school, try to close that gap with a 3-4 year veteran if he wants to come play SEC football. It just makes a lot of sense to me. So I always agree with you. You know, every time I hear you say that 2010.
Yeah. Well, Danny, I'm looking, I mean, as you're talking, I'm going back and looking at some past recruiting classes, you know, in the teens where Arkansas signed, you know, 24 to 27, 24 to 25 guys or so. And I'm just looking at the bottom of the class, and it's just like, I mean, you know, guys that they're taking flyers on that just didn't pan out. Well, I mean, almost to a man when you're talking about the final five lowest rank, the 5 lowest ranked guys, basically. It's just like, okay, I mean, it's kind of eye opening to me. And so if there's not 25 guys out there that you feel like can really help you in the program, why would you bring in 5 when you can bring in some transfers and fill in it that way?
Right.
You know? So Danny, what else is going on? Anybody on the radar for them, or anybody that we should watch out for?
Man, it's been really, really quiet, as you know. Just not a whole lot going on. I've been trying to track new offers, and there's not even a whole lot of that going on.
Hey, Danny, and on top of that, you got a soft opening for week 1. You know, like I say, it's a soft opening. It's in Little Rock, so you can have recruits there, but you can't interact with them at all.
Yeah, so about a week delayed on that front too. So, yeah, it's been quiet. Having said that, Trey, I do think, you know, it's a time of year where you might get a surprise or two, you know, kind of unexpected here and there. And if and when that happens, I think it would be a good one. But my head's on a swivel this week, matter of fact. So you never know, but it is that time of year where maybe you can pop some good news here and there before the season.
Yeah, I think I just coined that, by the way, is in relation to being able to have recruits or not soft opening. That's
it's
mine.
Not bad.
Yeah,
I kind of like that.
Not to be used without express written permission. HawgSports.com LLC. All right, Danny. Anything else you wanna touch on?
No, that's pretty much it, man. The next couple of weeks we'll be stockpiling names for the real opener in Fayetteville on the 9th there. So be looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to hearing from some guys and seeing where they're headed over the first couple of weeks there.
All right, Danny. Appreciate you, brother.
You got it, man.
All right, everybody. That's Danny West again. You can follow him at Danny West 24/7 on Twitter. He's the HawgSports recruiting analyst, and it's been a nice month to be Danny West, I think. You know, he's definitely had some other things that you get a list, you know, your honey-do list and all those kind of things build up throughout the season. So for me, it's like, you know, kind of like June. June is the month to take care of those kinds of things for me. For Danny, it's definitely become August. It used to be different, but the calendar's changed so much over the years. All right, is there anything else that we want to get to before we dive into a few questions of yours? I think we're good. I feel like we're good. Let's see what we got here. We've gone 33 minutes or so we'll try to get it out to about 40. What's the biggest surprise so far this season? Let's see. Biggest surprise. Surprise. I don't know. I don't know that I'm like maybe just overall how they look, I guess. I know that's not an individual thing. That's like such a coach answer. Like, who's standing out for you? Everybody's standing out. Biggest surprise for them, you know, Brad Spence has looked pretty good for a freshman linebacker. You know, the fact that Ian Gerfard wasn't, you know, just kind of, I use this word, but, you know, kind of dumpy looking for a guy that's 400 pounds. He looks, you know, athletic, you know, has ankles and stuff. I could see him actually helping them at some point. Biggest surprise, I don't know if I would say I'm just like dramatically surprised, other than I hate to say overall, but I feel like they got a really good squad overall, top to bottom, and I feel like they feel real good about it. So it's difficult to say. Just one surprise. Tyler Killingsworth says 11-1. We lose to Bama. I'd take that, obviously. Everybody would. If Arkansas, the thing that people have to remember, like when we're talking about like Arkansas looks good or Arkansas is this or that, that doesn't necessarily mean like competing for the college football playoffs, okay? And I know everybody has high expectations for Arkansas, and I also know that Chad Morris era should not be the thing that we compare everything against to decide if they're doing well, or that we should be thankful that Arkansas won 7 games or something like that because this is what it just was. I don't think that should be the comparison. So if Arkansas has like a 10-win season, you're talking about like probably one of the 10 best teams that the program has ever fielded. Okay, keep that in perspective. 11 wins, how many times they won 11 games as a program? 2? Is that right? 2 times? Keep that in perspective, It's a tough conference. It's why this college football playoff expanded to 12 teams is going to be a good thing for Arkansas. There's going to be a year somewhere in there. Maybe it's under Pittman. I don't know. It would be nice, I think, this year because I feel like I'm not predicting that they're going to be like that kind of team, but I feel like they have a shot this year to be that kind of team. I feel like they will have opportunities to be there. Now, will they make the most out of all of them? Probably not. But in those kind of years where you have those opportunities where you're close and you have a couple things go your way, you could slip into that 12-team playoff if you're in Arkansas. 4-team playoff, a little more difficult. A lot more difficult. Let's be honest, a lot more difficult. Let's see. Kingsley, tough last name, Kingsley. I finally made the live. Hey, these comments are disappearing. Why are they disappearing? That's not happened before. Comment mode default. Let's see if I can change that. Nope. Can't. MP Rich says 10-2. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, baby. Go for it. Dalton Added says, I watched Hogs Plus Fall Camp Defensive Special last night, and I must say this, they were talking poo Paul, and you could see twinkle in his eye when asked about how the defense was coming along, something we didn't see last year. I like Pooh. I like the linebackers overall. I just, don't fully know, like, you think about Arkansas linebackers of recent years. Obviously, they had Drew Sanders, who was a stud. Drew Sanders isn't on this team. Drew Sanders isn't walking through that door. Bumper Pool has always kind of been a staple. He had definitely a lot of injuries last year. But think about, like, before that, and you had, like, Bumper Pool and Grant Morgan and Hayden Henry. Those guys weren't, especially, like, Hayden and Grant, they weren't, like, world talents. They're not getting drafted in the NFL. They battled through injuries, but those guys were warriors for Arkansas. And, yeah, it's great to have the Drew Sanderses, but, man, it's real nice to have a Grant Morgan and Hayden Henry also. You know what I mean? Like guys that will just put their body on the line, smart football players. Is Pooh Paul that? Is Pooh Paul a marriage of that? Is he somewhere between Grant Morgan and Drew Sanders talent-wise? Maybe. I feel like he's got that energy, that leadership quality. I'm interested to see if there's a potential for for Pooh Paul to be a team captain. Now, I'm pretty sure they have voted on team captains. If they haven't, it's going to be like Friday, but maybe we talk to Sam Pittman Friday, I think, and maybe we'll find out team captains then. Kingsley says, looking forward to seeing some freaky lineups to get playmakers on the field, maybe Dom at fullback or tight end, Rocket and mention outside, et cetera, going to be interesting. I don't know that, like fullback, but you're going to see, some pistol, and you'll see, 2 backs lined up on either side of KJ Jefferson. I've definitely seen them do that. Daniel Winborn says, do you think in-state players from Arkansas get underrated? Not really. I feel like every other SEC school has the opportunity to get in-state 5-stars except Arkansas, smaller state. Even Missouri, after a bad year, has one and a potential second 5-star. It's a population thing. There's 3 million people in Arkansas. and per capita just doesn't produce the same level of talent as a similar sized state like Mississippi. It's just, demographics part of that. It's just, no, I don't feel like Arkansas talents are getting underrated. I feel like 24/7 Sports does a great job. I think the only reason Wyatt Simmons isn't a 4-star is because he hasn't been out there in camps. He's just kind of like Traylon Burks was. Traylon Burks was known, obviously, very early in his career. He's from Warren, a place that produces a lot of talent. So, Simmons comes from Searcy, Harding Academy, and just didn't get out there on the camp circuit and stuff like that. Coaches were coming to see him. I think that he's a 4-star talent, but as far as generally with Arkansas players, no, I don't feel like there's a dramatic underranking of Arkansas players. I think last year Shamar Brace, that's going way. Man, I'm 45 years old, so I'm just going way back. Shamar Bracey, Shamar Easter, I feel like was fairly rated. I mean, he was, one service had him top-ranked player in Arkansas, one of the top tight end prospects in the country. He's probably not going to play this year just because physically he needs to, get some strength and stuff, get a little bit bigger. But he's got a lot of talent. But I also think, a guy like Shamar Easter, if he's physically developed and everything, then maybe he's a 5-star. Quincy Rhodes, I feel like, was fairly ranked 4-star, good-looking kid. So, no, I don't feel like they're just whiffing or underranking Arkansas players. I just think it's a population deal. Some years you have great class inside the state for the size of the state, and some years, it's a really poor class. I mean, Missouri has, St. Louis and Kansas City, they've got some bigger population bases. Tan Danner says, you said before last season that Arkansas fans only like Rocket because he has a flashy name. I don't think that's what I said. I know, Tan, that's not what I said. If you can go find a clip of me saying that, then I'd love to see it. But what I do remember kind of saying was when we're talking about Dominic Johnson and Rocket Sanders, that Rocket had the flashier name. I do remember, indicating that. But I say that kind of stuff with Bumper Pool, for example. I always said that if Bumper Pool ever made 100 tackles at Arkansas, he would be all SEC because people would say the name, they like the name, that kind of stuff. But no, I would never say that, and there's no way in hell that I said that, Tan. No way in hell. Guillermo, not the way you said it anyway, to indicate that, he would be bad otherwise. Guillermo Azuna, love the show. Glad I could follow live. Appreciate you joining live. Isaac Riley says, I'm at work, so stopping in real quick. I appreciate the work you do and your team put in for the Razorbacks, Trey. Appreciate that. My birthday's just a couple days before our first season game on the 2nd. Happy birthday, Isaac. Jonathan Parker says, did not realize how big Jeff Coate was. Yeah, Jeff Coate's a big dude. He's listed at 6'4", but I would say he looks 6'5" to me. I would say, also, Ian Dreffard, so I'm watching the defensive line the other day, and, all these guys are listed 6'5". Cam Ball's 6'5", Ian Dreffard's 6'5", Marcus Miller's 6'5", so on and so forth. If Cam Ball's 6'5", then – and Keevy Rhodes is listed 6'5". I'll say – so if Cam Ball is 6'5", then Ian Dreffard's 6'6". The way I was looking at it was okay, Cam Ball probably closer to 6'4", Marcus Miller probably 6'4", Keevy Rose probably 6'3", 6'3.5". Torian Carter and Keevy Rose probably 6'2". If Ian Dreffard is 6'5", which I think he's more like 6'6", in my opinion. It gets a little I always say, I'm a little over 6 foot, 6 foot and a quarter, something like that at 45 years old. So I always, gauge people about, people say they're 6 foot. And I'm like, really? You're 6 foot? Okay. Because that's always kind of the standard. Anybody's closest to 5'10", 5'11", I'm 6 foot. That's kind of how things go, especially in sports. But when you get up, start getting to 6'5" or so, it gets a little more difficult for me to tell exactly how tall somebody is. But Dreffard's such a big – he's the biggest human I think I've ever seen. Him and Devon Manuel are up there. But, man, Dreffard at 6'5" to be almost 400 pounds. Clint Stacy Patterson says, ready for the walk and talk. Let's get ready. The season started ready. You know, almost like I don't dread the walk and talk at all. I love doing it, and you know, I love how it works for me. Just the information just kind of, and opinions just kind of flow out of me. I always felt like that when you're walking, that just, you know, stuff just, you just talk and it just comes out. I was watching some of the older, you know, original walk and talks I did, and like where I just like called it a walk and talk casually. It wasn't like something I planned. I was just called it a walk and talk in the middle of doing it, and that's how it became the walk and talk. But I also always get like, what am I going to say? You know, like before it happens, there's always a bit of like, people have high expectations for this. What am I going to say? You know, and then I just start doing it, and it just happens. It's kind of weird. So I guess this is year, let's see, 19, 20, 20, year 5. I've been doing it that long. I mean, back in like 18 and 17 and stuff, I was doing similar stuff. I didn't call it the walk and talk, but I was doing like week in the life, walking around. I would do stand-ups and end up just like kind of holding the tripod and like talking into it a little bit. And it eventually just kind of evolved into the walk and talk. But yeah, I guess this is year 5 of that. Am I always going to do it? I guess. I don't know. I'll say this, you know, like, my job has changed over the years. You know, like I'm the publisher of HawgSports. Our team has grown. It used to be, there was a time like, you know, 20 years ago when I was doing this, I was basically living out of my truck, you know, working at computer labs, and it was just me. And then, you know, we expanded to 2, and then we went from 2 to 3, and then 3 to 4. And, you know, now we're about to have 5. We're about to bring on somebody else. And, you know, so my job has just changed to where like, it's not so much that I, you know, need to go travel to all these destinations, road destinations and things like that. I need to be able to delegate and wear the publisher hat a little bit more. So, you know, maybe, I don't know, home games, maybe a couple few road games. I don't think that I will travel to every single road game, you know, this year. And I haven't been doing that lately. It's just the job has changed for me. And I know everybody expects me to, you know, walk out of the swamp doing a walk and talk. And I don't know if that's what's going to happen this year. It's just, you know, so much travel time and all the other responsibilities, things start to just kind of pile up on me because I have so many other things on my plate. So I don't know. We'll see. But I do enjoy doing the walk and talk. I definitely do it for every home game. And sometimes I just kind of do it, you know, walking near the neighborhood kind of deal. So, you know, year 1 in 2019, if I missed a road game, if I didn't travel to a road game, I just did the studio show. But I quit doing that because everybody wanted to walk and talk. All right. I'm going to get close to wrapping it up here. I'm starting to feel it in the voice a little bit. I have more radio shows today as well. Since we're talking some recruiting, we're still recruiting Jaquan McCoy. Yeah, I don't think they're going to quit until he puts pen to paper. Jonathan Parker says, and you know, even then, you never know what might happen later. Jonathan Parker says, are we going to be able to have a good rotation on defense, keep everyone fresh? I think so. I think defensive line, I think linebacker, you know, linebacker, I don't know if it's going to be like, I just don't know how good they're going to be. I think they're going to be average at least, but I don't know how good they're going to be. But I think they got enough guys that they'll be able to rotate there. Cornerback, they should be able to do some of that. And safety, we'll see. You know, I think it depends on Jaden Johnson, Malik Chavis. You know, as I talked about earlier, you're going to have injuries too. You know, I mean, and that's gonna limit you week to week. Trey, how confident are you in our receivers? Can they get separation? I am very confident in Arkansas's receivers. Look at me, right here. Keep this receipt. Arkansas has very talented wide receivers. Andrew Armstrong, I was thinking about it today, yesterday, and the day before. Like, who's going to lead them in catches? Could be Tesla. Could be Satania. Satania. Did I just say it both ways? Some people are saying Satanga. Some people are saying Satania. I've been saying Satania. So is it going to be one of those guys? Andrew Armstrong, I kind of feel like is going to lead them in yardage. I think he'll be the yardage, maybe touchdown leader also. Where's Tyron Bowden fitting there? So that's kind of where I am. But look at me. They got some skill guys. They got some running backs. They got some receivers. They got some tight ends that can catch the ball. I'm not thrilled with what I've seen out of blocking from tight ends just yet. You know, it's not a big, massive group. But, man, you talk about Lucas catching the ball, Gums. Landon Montgomery says Pitt is subtle, but I've learned how to read him. He's excited about this team. There's no question that Pittman feels like he's got a squad. I feel like this is his best squad. I feel like it's his best squad personnel-wise. Now, some things come down to coaching decisions, how those close games play out, and so that's where you got to have the coaches. But personnel, they've got the pieces. KJ Jefferson, you got a stud at quarterback, and you've got a supporting cast around him. And that's what counts. You don't have just like these glaring weaknesses like you have a lot of times on Arkansas teams. Landon Montgomery, so what position could this Ford not see Ford see a starter go down? Like safety, I think that would hurt him, just based on what I see now. I mean, you don't want to lose, Lord, KJ. I mean, I assume that's obvious. Rocket. Garrett Isbell says, Trey, how strong will our offensive line be? The one spot offensive line worries me. Yeah, I mean, there's concern for offensive line just because it's so new, I mean, like, I think they're going to be okay. I don't think it's as good. The offensive line is not as good as the defensive line. The offensive line is not as good as the defensive line. I think they're going to be okay. I don't know because there is so much newness. I really like the potential of Devon Manuel. 6'9", 310, athletic. I think he has got so much potential. Kudus being so young worries me. Kudus, 11 days ago turned 19. They're freshmen on this team older than Patrick Kudus. He can still squat over 600 pounds. But, yeah, there's some concern for me on the offensive line. I think there's optimism also, but you just don't know. Getting spammed now in the comments. Ryan Womack asked if Quincy McAdoo is going to start. Quincy McAdoo is out for the year. Car accident. Do they have better coaches this year? I think so on defense. I know they have. I know they're better in the secondary. And I like Barry Odom, but man, Marcus Woodson, guys, like future head coach. I was not a big fan of the cornerback coach last year. So, I like Darren Wilson, but I also think a lot of people could have come in and be better. I like Travis Williams. I like Michael Scherer. I do think I like the defensive staff better this year. I do. I think that just from what I see, the way they interact with players, the way the players respond to them, I think they're better. I think Morgan Turner has a great resume developing tight ends. Is he better than Dow Loggins? I don't know. Is he a better recruiter than Dow Loggins? I don't know. I don't know if I've seen that yet. Dow's a pretty solid recruiter. And then Dan Enos, I think Dan just brings different things to the table than Kendall Browse did. I thought Kendall Browse, people complain about Kendall, but the problem with the offense last year is they couldn't get it done in short yardage. They did something stupid, putting Trey Knox at quarterback one time when they already got a 240-pound quarterback at the goal line. He'd get a little cute sometimes, a little razzle-dazzle sometimes. But overall, they averaged 471 yards a game of offense, which is pretty damn solid. I think where Dan Enos brings a different dimension is his ability to really coach quarterbacks on just the intricacies of playing the position. There were 7 guys playing in the NFL last year that he coached at quarterback. So is he a good play caller as Kendall Browse was? I don't know. We'll see. Is he a better quarterback coach, position coach? I think so. Do shots every time Chad Morris gets mentioned. Let's agree just not to mention him. I don't do shots. I fake shots. Anytime somebody buys me a shot, I'm like airplane style or Coyote Ugly, take the shot and then have the empty beer. And I'm not allowed to do them. That's my rule. That's my rule from personal experience. All right. Should we expect some shutouts? Let's calm down. Let's calm down, Brooks. Let's just hope for improvement. Would you rather go 10-3 with a bowl victory or loss? I'll take 10-3 with a bowl loss. In this climate, where bowl games don't mean as much as they used to. Like, yeah, 10-2 and playing an SEC slate, hell yeah. Take that every day. Plus, it means you go 10-2, you're going to probably New Year's 6, and you're going to lose a New Year's 6 bowl. That would suck, but I'd take 10-2 regular season. No question about it. Aaron Wayne Moyer says, Trey, love the show. Keep it up. Appreciate you. Liking what you hear about Criswell. I like what I see about Criswell. I think, I appreciate everybody watching this show and everything. I do think where I bring things a little bit differently than most people, I'm the guy sitting in the front row of the press conference, firing off questions to the coach and the athletes. I'm the guy that's at every practice, watching every bit of practice that they let us have. There's a lot of people out there, and nothing against anybody and the job that anybody else does, but there's a lot of people out there just basically reading what I do, reading what I write, reading what my guys write, reading what other media people write who are there, and then coming on doing a podcast or a radio show or something and talking about that. And nothing against those guys. There's a lot of talented people who do that, and a lot of people have insight also. But, I'm doing this show from firsthand experience. I'm talking about my firsthand experiences. And I just think that's a little bit different than most people do. Angel Morgan says, humble beginnings. Nothing. Yeah, I mean, that's how it started out. It wasn't my choice, but I had to start somewhere. Okay. I should do a pregame walk and talk. I thought about doing like a Twitter live or something, like just putting my earbuds in and just walking and talking to, people on Twitter or something like that. I don't know. Maybe something I'll try out. Let me know in the comments you think that would be fun. All right. Just scrolling to see if anything that just really jumps out. I doubt if Arkansas football will ever go very far with Sam Pittman. I hope I'm wrong, but I guess we'll find out together. It's definitely fine to have that opinion. I do think that they've got a solid squad. Again, it's just like, what does everybody else, what do they have cooking? Now, I'll say this. If you go back, Brett Bielema never won 9 games. Chad Morris damn sure didn't. I mean, in the last 3 coaches at least, Pittman's the best one that they've had. If you consider that. So what is far with Arkansas? What's going far? Making to a New Year's 6 type of bowl? Can Arkansas upset LSU? They can. They can upset LSU. I don't know that I'm picking them to go on the road to Baton Rouge and beat LSU. I've seen them do it before, though. And I think this team can hang with anybody on the schedule, mainly because of the depth that they have. Will they? Remains to be seen. What about special teams? Great question. What about special teams, the punting situation? I think they've got a kicker in Cam Little. Obviously, we know that. There have been some instances on special teams that have been a little annoying here and there. Last year, I would say especially. I get frustrated when they bring the ball out on kickoffs when really every time, but like 2 times out of all the times they did it, they shouldn't have done it. Punting has got to be better. There were too many times where you can go back to all those 4 close losses. Every single one of them, you can go back and you can find a pretty significant punting error, like a 20-yard shank or something, where you needed a pooch kick and just booms it out of the back of the end zone, stuff like that. They've got to be better at punting. They have a guy with a big leg, Max Fletcher, but woefully inconsistent last year. All right, everybody. Feel good about today's show. This is the last one, the last like midweek type of show where we, kind of been doing one a week. We've even missed some weeks this summer. From here on out, just to let you know the schedule, it'll probably be like 2-ish when we do the Monday show, because Sam Pittman will have a noon press conference, have some work to do, and then I'll hop on and we'll do the show on Monday. We'll call it I've called it Hogs Hit Western Carolina Week. That's what I've called it in the past, but I think I had to stop doing that because it's like HOGS and then hit. And everybody's like, what? You understand what I'm saying? So I think I might need to change the title up. I kind of kept it going just because it was funny, but it was always like Hogs Hit. See where I'm going there? Western Carolina week. So I'll probably change that up a little bit this year. If you got any suggestions for the Monday show, let me know. And then Thursday is the primer. Thursday primer. We usually have a team expert from another side, especially if it's a Power 5 opponent. We usually have a team expert, but that's like Arkansas versus Western Carolina primer. Primer just because the paint that goes on before the paint, the coating that goes on before the paint. That's why we call it that. All right, everybody. Appreciate Danny West for joining me, and thank you for all your questions. Last midweek type of show. From here on out, Monday, Thursday, walk and talk on Saturday. All right, everybody, thanks for joining me. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. Catch you next time.